Cats, Cops, and C4. I basically finished the chapter at the halfway point and needed to add on. Damn weird reason to get writer's block. She stares up at the handler. The woman fidgets a little, as she is prone to doing when she knows she screwed up. This is less than a child. This is an infant with a teenage-age body and business knowledge and stockbrokering pounded into her brain with neither context nor the background to fully appreciate it. She has less than no self-preservation instincts. How is she proving so difficult to kill? She is not proving difficult to kill. Her protectors are proving difficult to defeat. Without them, she would have been dead on the first attempt. She should have been dead on the first attempt. The handler replies, "Ah yes, the professional meddlers and self-appointed saviors of the galaxy. The undaunted," she says with a snarl. Most people who push so hard to make themselves be seen burn themselves out by now. They seem insane, the handler states. They must be. How else can you justify being so willing to face the entire galaxy? Regardless, what the pits is it making it so hard to kill one barely aware clone? An infant needs to be kept alive. A teenager is at a high chance of killing themselves. A teenager with the life experience of an infant should be a self-slaughtering target. Ma'am, no, no, no. No more from you. You need to hear this. You have failed. Failed badly. Failed repeatedly. Do you think you are irreplaceable? That I cannot simply have another created? A cloning laboratory may take a great deal of energy, but hiding them into the background noise of an entire Spire's Axiom movement is child's play. You are not safe, not from me. Yes, ma'am, the handler says, and Miss Big nods. Good. Now then, our customers are still split. Some want the Frost clone dead yesterday. Others want a few years for them to grab more shares and a bigger prize. The fee rises higher and higher with every idiot argument about how she should be killed and how soon. And every hand turns against them, turns against Frost as well, and her protectors. We can pick and choose when to strike. They don't know where we are, when we are, or who we are. They just have to blink. That's right, Miss Small. Now I've made a little something special. Something to finish the job, break the reputation of the undaunted, and remind my customers why they needed my help, she says, pulling out a small box from under her desk. I don't care who does it. I don't care how it's done. Get that device onto human flesh, then it's all over, she says as Miss Small takes the case and nods. Dismissed. So what are we looking at? Herbert asks as he looks down at the small drone opening the case. Inside is a tiny Kutha totem. The Axiom signature around it is minuscule, but monstrously complicated. It seems to be dense at first glance, and it is in sheer information alone. The adept beside him swallows hard at the look of the device as he raises his goggles off his eyes so the sheer amount of information stops overwhelming him. She copied the sheer bullshit that is the gravy to remake an old horror, but did the Axiom equivalent of a find and replace function on it. Even worse, it's designed to read DNA. This is a direct attack against the undaunted and all humanity wrapped up in a single piece of Kutha that has been put together from the molecular level up. This is a level of precision that goes well beyond any mortal hand. She has to have some kind of extremely advanced Kutha 3D printer to put this together. And what would happen if I were to grab it? I'd shoot you in the head. Why? It wipes all but memory and uses the chunk of Kutha as the new brain. The new brain has an obsession, in this case, to kill Amy Frost. And it activates on skin contact, provided you have human DNA. Fuck. We got her with this, though. This kind of tech is known in the galaxy and is universally illegal. The only question is how much. Lowest punishment is the confiscation of all known assets and 500 years behind bars before 1,000 years of exile. Herbert says as he glares at the tiny thing. It just looks like a chunk of jewelry, shaped like a butterfly no less. There are even little glass jewels on it to make it look like something a person could be caught casually wearing. Of course, the last recorded case of something like this being used was before the birth of Christ. There are deep cultural memories for these things. What happened? Last time someone tried to use one on a primal Nagasha. The hood caused the effect to erupt outwards and hit half a city. The flying city in question then began to fall holes and a week later the only survivor, the primal in question, was pulled out of the rubble, her personality destroyed, but her memories remaining. What happened? The Tritite lady lives still as one of the harshest judges and lawmakers in the known galaxy. Quite the change from a young Nagasha described as overly forgiving and pacifistic, the adept says, and Herbert slowly smiles. You thinking what I'm thinking. She wants to make an example out of us, we making an example out of her. I'm going to talk with the Admiral. This is going to make waves, Herbert says. Better batten down the hatches then. The adept notes even as the drone starts covering the Kutha device in resin that quickly hardens. It's useful evidence, but it won't be brainwashing anyone. So that was the next plan. Scary stuff. I'll keep an eye out for anyone with a funky axiom presence around them, Cenk says into his communicator. You do that, we have everything we need to hit Miss Big now. Our next step is making sure the blow can be seen from Earth. Woof, well that's a hell of a thing. Let me know when to get everyone behind cover. Oh, trust me, cover won't matter for a shot like this. Ah, full nuclear. I suppose it is the only way to make sure, Cenk replies. So beyond the news, just keep at it? Pretty much, however Miss Big may not be the end of it. She's made allusions to customers in the plural. She might not be the only person sending killers. Copy that, Cenk says before leaning over the door frame to look to where Amy is eating and then leaning back. But seriously, what are we doing? There's a big hitter in the legal scene that's been hurt this way before. She has a reputation for coming down hard. We're calling her in and getting out of the line of fire. They tell him and Cenk blinks. And Admiral Cistern okayed this? He loves it. After all, it shows that the Undaunted are willing to work with legal authorities and have certain limits as well. Makes us look more approachable, while also sending a statement that you normally need artillery fire to get across. No kidding. But who do you think the customers are? I suspect we'll only start figuring that out when we get to go through Miss Big's own files, his handler says, and he sighs before nodding. That makes sense. All right, I'm hanging up now, unless there's more intel for me. No, get back to protecting her. She's still in diving distance. I am protecting her, he says before hanging up. What's going on? Linda asks. We've made a breakthrough, but found some bad news. Bad news? Miss Big is not acting on her own. She's been hired, and you do not know who has hired her, Linda says. Not yet, but she's going to be dealt with very definitively. Cenk replies. What a mess, Linda remarks. Almost makes a girl pine for the days she was just a patrol officer. Really? No, patrol is miserable. Milady? Milady, are you receiving? A hesitant voice asks into a dark chamber, and before eyes open, axiom glows. A long and powerful serpentine body is outlined in the tribal-like markings as a massive form slowly rises up. I am awake, Jalasi. What are you so afraid of? The enormous figure asks, even as a single shake of a massive rattle reverberates around the room, exposing the dark blue and almost black form of Basilash the Tritite Lady. A priority communication from a member of the Galactic Council. I do not have time nor patience for the petty politicking of short-sighted fools who all but feed the people they are sworn to protect to their attackers. Milady, it was a simple text message, a request, Jalasi says even as Basilash shrugs off the padded blankets she had been coiled under and lets loose a medley of pops and cracks as she stretches. I do not care, she says in a tone underlying enough contempt that if it were a physical thing it would have poured out of the room and washed the attendant away. A criminal has been caught trying to use a mindslayer, Jalasi says, and Basilash pauses as her axiom markings begin to flare. They are soon to act upon her and request your legal judgment for what to do with them. I see. And who is it that is making this request of me? Basilash asks, her attention thoroughly captured. Admiral Cistern of the Undaunted. Really? So the rumors of him being a bleeding-hearted fool who's soft on criminals was false, it seems. Perhaps, milady, or perhaps this is merely a line he refuses to cross in any capacity. Jalasi asks even as Basilash summons her clothing to herself and is dressed in the robes of her office and role. The somber dark robe is formal, smart, and has her own personal crest. A crest that means justice the galaxy over, whether the short-sighted fools within it like it or not. Perhaps, however, if some wretch is using Mindslayers again, then they must be made example of. Where has this atrocity been committed? I have not been directly informed, but they request our presence on Centris. Really? You'd think that a fool would only try such a thing in the outskirts. Contact the man back. I want as much detail as possible. Surely you need no aid to make a proper judgment. No. However, if I am to crush the existence of such vile things all the more thoroughly, then I need all the details. Basilash remarks even as the tins of white and black makeup begin to float up to her. She begins painting her face in the traditional style of the desert Nagasha. Also, have the Undaunted looked further into? I had dismissed them as any form of justice upon the galaxy when I learned of their recruitment of pirates. However, if they're asking for my direct attention, then they shall have it, for good or ill. Yes, milady. Shall I make a formal request from them? You shall. Unlike the corrupt and fallible fools that think they run the galaxy, I will not resort to crime or oath-breaking to achieve my ends. There will be order, Basilash says as she finishes with the war paint on her face and begins decorating her arms as well. She has no room nor time for fools. Not now, not ever. If these humans wish to be fools, then they will be crushed under coil, as all fools must be. Is there anything else? Your ward has decided to undergo uplift efforts. A species similar to Trets has been discovered in wild space by an Apuk battle princess. He has decided to personally uplift them. Good. The boy has been bone idle since his education finished, Basilash states. Milady, his education took a millennia and ended 5 years ago. Jalasi protests. Of course, calling what Basilash had put the boy through in education was, well, it was only a technically accurate statement. His field trips and apprenticeships had been more along the lines of campaigns and full careers. Exactly. Bone idle. No proper way for a primal of any sort to act. I see. Is there anything you wish to pass to him? Any words for the redemption? Tell Jaltraki that even in primitive environments, I will not stand anything less than perfection. He is primal. He will act like it, and I have neither hesitation nor qualms in dragging him off the world by the hood and throwing him into the same cell his mother dwelled in before she was justly executed. Of course, milady. Incidentally, I have learned that his direct plan is not to simply bring technology, but teach with currently available resources until they create the tools needed to join the galaxy on their own. That will keep him at least moderately occupied for a time. Good. Remind him that in areas where local law and galactic law clash, it is galactic law I expect him to follow. Now, what cases are prepared for today's judgment?